Molly Woods returns from a solo space mission and discovers that she is pregnant. How this could happen and how her family will take it, because there are already enough problems with the adopted child, a robot, the woman does not know. And she does not even realize that this is not the worst thing that lies ahead. A young woman vomits in the bathroom, and she explains to her son that these are symptoms of acclimatization because she spent a year on the space station in complete isolation. At Molly and John Wood's house, a party is underway to celebrate the return of his wife and mother from orbit. Suddenly, shouts come from the pond's shore. It's the Woods' son, Ethan, who has had a fight with their friend's son, and the parents rush to deal with the problem. But all ends well, the boy apologizes. In the evening, Molly goes to throw out the trash and sees a man's silhouette outside the house, but the man leaves. At this time, Ethan declares to his father that his mother is no longer the same, and then his father changes his battery, while his wife pulls out a photo album and stares longingly at the image of the young man embracing her. Her husband catches her doing this, but he is not angry. He understands that if Marcus were alive, Molly would never be his wife. In the morning, John and Ethan go to the Yasumoto Corporation, where John has a report to make, while Molly comes to see the doctor and friend Sam. The woman is dumbfounded by the doctor's message. Despite spending 13 months all alone, she is pregnant. Molly recalls her duty. One day she's working with experimental plant sprouts when AI reports a solar flare. The lights go out on the station, and alarmed, Molly goes to check the equipment and suddenly sees her dead boyfriend's face outside the airlock door. In the present, she categorically denies the pregnancy. Not only has she been completely alone for a year, she couldn't get pregnant before the flight either, despite repeated attempts. Molly persuades Sam not to tell anyone anything, because she does not want to be quarantined. In addition, she has to somehow explain the pregnancy to her husband, who at this time talks about the project Humanix, which is being developed under his direction. Humanity has long and successfully made robotic assistants, overlooking the aspects of humanity. And his project aims to make it possible for robots to truly bond with humans. John invites Ethan to the stage. Molly, meanwhile, walks out into the hallway and sees a portrait of her dead colleague, Krieger, on the wall. She is hailed by the new deputy director, Gordon Kern, who praises her work but asks questions about an obscure omission in the videos. In the meantime, the board members begin to ask questions. John explains, Humanix of course can enslave their hosts, but the developers suggest preventing this by implanting human experience into their personality. Then they too will be able to distinguish good from evil. Those present wonder, how does Ethan turn off? John is shocked. Are they ready to turn off their children too? Personally, he denies the existence of the soul and believes that it refers to the accumulation of human experience. Upon learning that John has no behavioral restraints, the council rejects funding his project. Meanwhile, Molly talks about a little accident during the solar flare, after which she had to reboot the AI. Her explanation is accepted, but Director Sparks asks the woman to undergo a psychiatric evaluation, which they put in place after Krieger's suicide. After the conversation, Sparks reports to the head of the corporation, Hideki Yasumoto, about Molly's accident, identical to the one with Krieger. Yasumoto orders him to keep an eye on Molly and learns of the refusal to fund her husband's research. In the morning, John is invited to the corporation, where he is met by Hideki himself. The scientist tells him about a project he and his wife have adopted. The head of the corporation offers to finance his project from his personal funds. At this time, Molly and Ethan are walking in the park when the woman is handed a balloon and a note, which makes the woman nervous and tries to take her son away. But the boy begins to be cranky, and then he runs away from Molly altogether. She finds him in a thicket with a dead bird lying in front of him, but Ethan says he found her in this condition. In the evening, she shares what has happened with her husband, but he does not understand her fears. The boy is just growing up. She does not believe in the possibility of love. Molly returns to her memories of the accident. At first, she cannot believe the reality of what is happening and opens the door. Marcus takes a step toward her, repeating her words that everything will be okay. He runs his finger over the zipper of her jumpsuit, and Molly, not believing herself, strokes his cheek. Then she faints. In the morning, the couple reconciles. Molly goes to a therapy session, which Yasumoto watches. And Molly remembers coming to her senses at the station and closing all the hatches. Then she watches the video footage and finds no strangers, but she acts as if she really sees someone nearby. That's when Molly gives the command to destroy all the videos during that time period. In the evening, she goes to throw out the trash again and sees Krieger, who asks not to trust anyone, and leaves. In the morning, John goes to work, reminding his wife of her plans for the day, while Sparks inquires of Sam about Molly's tests. But the woman hides the fact that the test results are ready. The scientist and his team are excited about the new office, and Molly reminds her son of his upcoming field trip, goes to change, and suddenly hears strange noises. The woman goes down to the first floor and suddenly feels a severe pain in her stomach. She sees Marcus and faints. Humanics brings the woman to her senses, and they go to the Museum of Natural History, where all the children except Ethan are frightened by the elephant hologram. At this time, Molly calls out to Sam, whom the woman called after she fainted. The doctor is finding it increasingly difficult to hide her test results, and Molly tells her about Krieger's visit. Shocked, Sam tells her that their CAT scans are identical and offers to have them retested at her private clinic. At this time, Ethan learns that weak individuals have been extinct during evolution, and it sinks into his consciousness. Later, Molly talks to Ethan and asks him to keep her fainting secret from John, in exchange for her silence about the boy running away from her again. The couple leaves without noticing that Krieger is watching them. And the astronaut recalls how one day, while he's on the station, there is a solar flare that causes the station's AI to shut down, and he finds wet human footprints on the floor and then sees his mother in the cell. Molly and Ethan arrive at John's new lab, where they are greeted by the assistant scientist, Julia, who is very close to the boy. And while father and son leave to meet Yasumoto, the women discuss the boy's upbringing. Hideki meets Ethan and expresses a desire to meet Molly, who at this time comes to work and asks AI to show Krieger's watch notes during the solar flare. She sees the man frightened as he barricades the doors, as if running away from someone. But the session suddenly stops. Molly goes to the bathroom and leaves her health tracker there. As she walks outside, she sees Krieger calling her into his car. He takes her to the ocean front, to his trailer, and tells her about seeing his mother in space. He tried to run away from the creature, but it was unsuccessful. She followed him everywhere. So he lured her into an airlock and threw her into space. Molly talks about the same changes in their brains, and the men suggest that they were being experimented on. She will be monitored, bugged, and stalked. And no one will believe her, not even her loved ones. After all of this has happened to him too. Later, Molly tells Sam about this conversation, but she cannot explain what is happening and asks her to confess everything to John. The doctor brings her to the old veterinary hospital and performs an ultrasound. Inside the woman is a perfectly normal 14-week-old embryo. In the evening, Molly catches up with director Sparks, tells her about her pregnancy and blames it all on the corporation. The man assures her that he would never do such a thing to a friend and promises to find out. Upon learning of Molly's pregnancy, Yasumoto suggests that they are already here. Sparks is horrified, but the boss reminds him of the director's dead daughter, to whom they paid tribute by doing what they do. Then he hears the message that he has about 100 days to live. Molly returns home and apologizes for her late return. Her husband reminds her he is always there for her and ready to support her. And Ethan shows his drawing. His family is saved from extinction in a comic ship. At night, Sparks' assistant arrives at Sam's hospital and finds Molly's ultrasound records, which he reports to his supervisor. He tells her that she was already pregnant by her boyfriend, Marcus, who died in an accident shortly before his launch into space orbit. Molly had a miscarriage and couldn't get pregnant again, and promises to take care of the woman herself. Meanwhile, she recalls how, after her last attempt at becoming a mother, John offers to parent Ethan and raise him as a human being. And she announces to John her bid to go into space. At this time, her husband wakes up and offers to celebrate her birthday, which she missed because she was on a flight. Later, the man gathers Ethan for a prep school class and reminds her of the rules. Don't go outside and don't open the door for anyone. But as soon as his father leaves, the boy goes out into the yard and sets a pigeon trap. Meanwhile, Molly is met by Director Spark, who informs her that she was right. She has indeed been subjected to a blind experiment on delayed conception, and the child is hers and John's. He apologizes for this and promises to deal with all those responsible. But he's more concerned about her tests, so he asks the woman to be observed at the hospital for a couple of days. But Molly leaves while Ethan catches a pigeon. Later, the couple takes the boy to school and encounters the displeasure of the parents, who fear for their children being around the robot. Woods is forced to explain that the boy is no worse than their children. Meanwhile, in John's laboratory, his assistants train another robot and are amazed at his success. Molly reports the conversation with Sparks to Sam, but she is convinced that the workers at the center would never do anything like this, and no secret program has been started. She would certainly know about this. The woman goes to Krieger's trailer, but he's not there. On the wall, however, she finds a very strange drawing. On the way back, Molly's car is stopped by Sparks' assistant, and he returns her lost health sensor. The couple meets Ethan from school, while Sparks puts forward a plan to quietly put Molly in the hospital. Meanwhile, a party begins at the Woods family home. Sam arrives and takes Molly's blood and promises to do a DNA test right that night. But afterwards, Molly is twisting in pain again, and something incomprehensible is moving under her skin. She remembers Marcus's face at the station and his entreaties that everything will be okay. After recovering, the woman walks downstairs to her guests and suddenly sees a young man outside the door and leads him inside. This is Marcus's brother, who is in the Navy. He has not contacted her because he was very distressed about his brother's death. He still sees his brother in every man now and is sure that he sends messages promising that all will be well. At this moment, the guests are about to take a picture together and Molly calls the boy along. He happily becomes close by, but suddenly the lights go out in the house. John rushes to the garage and finds a pigeon in a box. John is shocked. The boy disobeyed again, went out of the house, caught the pigeon and put it in the box. After all, the bird could have died. The boy apologizes and refers to his mother, who said that all people can have secrets. A light comes on in the house and Molly sees John go up to the second floor. She hurries after her husband and he asks her to finally speak out about everything she cares about. And the woman admits to being pregnant and tells him about the experiment. John comforts her. Together they can cope with everything. The couple goes to their guests and watches the movie that family and friends made for Molly all year while she was in space. At this time, Julia goes up to Ethan's and reads him a bedtime book, as she has done all this year. At this time, Sam goes to her office, but runs into a security guard who announces a chemical leak in the lab and won't let her inside. And Molly thanks everyone for their touching attitude and starts looking for Marcus's brother. But John has not seen any brother. Molly does not believe him and begins to search the house. Eventually, she opens a shared photo and no brother is found near her. The couple accompanies the guests away, and Molly announces that she wants to go to the hospital because something is happening to her, as Sparks' car is already waiting for her outside, and the woman gets into it. The director apologizes. After his daughter's death on the space station, it's time for him to change jobs. Meanwhile, Sam tries again to get into the office, but gets banned, sneaks up another flight of stairs and sees all the stuff being taken out of her office. She calls Molly, but gets caught by John. The woman runs away from the center, but gets caught by security, managing to send Molly a warning. The woman forces Sparks to stop and runs away from him, while John catches up with her in his car. At this time, the military bursts into their house, but no one is there anymore. The Woods family drives away from town, while John tries to figure out what is going on. He turns off Ethan's beacon, but they can't hide for long. Molly asks for just one day to do a DNA test. Sparks reports that the Woods car has been found in the parking lot, and he orders them to look for it, while he himself reports on the escape of the Yasumoto family, who in the meantime goes to the lab where the meteor substance is being studied. The scientists are convinced that it is the substance that can provide a cure for all diseases. The chief orders him to show the results and to demonstrate the substance's effects. One of the scientists removes his gas mask and nothing happens. The delighted scientists hope for praise, but then the man feels ill and dies. Yasumoto silently leaves the laboratory. Meanwhile, the Woods family visits Molly's father on the ocean front. Sam begs permission to use the bathroom and pours Molly's blood down the toilet, which the guards and Sparks catch her doing. Yasumoto demands that everything be done to prevent Molly from getting the unborn child's DNA, because it's the only hope for recovery. And if Molly won't calm down, she must be eliminated. Meanwhile, the family makes it to their grandfather's house, and Molly is suddenly attacked by an old dog who has always loved her. The bewildered owner treats the bite on his daughter's arm and asks questions because he senses something is wrong. He has quit using and hopes to improve their relationship. Sparks' assistant informs him that the family has been discovered and he orders him to watch the men. In the meantime, Molly shows her son to his room and they look at the star chart on the ceiling together. Then the boy goes for a walk with his grandfather, who teaches him how to make pancakes. Ethan does not succeed the first time, and his grandfather consoles him by saying that no one is perfect. And then the kid deftly launches a pebble, which the man who comes up to them notes. Meanwhile, Molly and John find some old medical equipment, and the man sets about fixing it, hoping that DNA testing will confirm the happy news. Molly asks her father to take Ethan to dinner in town, and he happily agrees, while Sparks' underlings set up a mobile hospital. And the director himself intimidates Sam by reminding her of the fate of her younger brother, who has been accused of murdering her roommate. But once the case went to trial, the kid was transferred to a mental institution, and he could be returned to prison. Sparks gives the woman a tablet, on which she contacts her brother. He then gives the order for the operation to begin. Meanwhile, Ethan and his grandfather are having dinner at a cafe on the beach when a comrade invites the couple to a bar. John manages to repair the DNA detector and takes Molly's blood, and she sees Marcus again, who asks not to let him go. In the meantime, Ethan shows wonders of marksmanship, for which Grandpa gets quite a bit of money. But when Grandfather announces a triple bet, Ethan misses. The disappointed grandfather takes the boy home, expressing his dissatisfaction with his miss. But when he arrives at the entrance of his property, the man finds the gate closed, though he remembers perfectly well that he left it open. He gets out of the car, but when he returns, he does not find Ethan in the car. And the kid is carried into the bushes by Sparks' handmaidens. His parents don't understand where the kid could have gone, and Molly pokes around to find out everything the grandfather and the boy did. She is shocked. How could he take the kid to a bar? John stops the altercation and suggests that the grandfather call the sheriff and go look for him in the woods. Meanwhile, the boys carried ashore and disconnected. The sheriff and the search party, upon learning that they're looking for him, refuse to look for him at night. Enraged, John beats up a policeman and is arrested along with his grandfather, while Molly finds the emotionless boy. She is captured by Sparks' agents and taken to the lab. The woman feels a strange stirring in her stomach and, armed with a syringe, escapes from the table. But she is caught and placed back on the couch. Yasumoto watches this happen while Sparks finds a DNA detector in Molly's father's garage and, hesitating, presses a button. And the doctors begin an operation to remove the baby from Molly's womb.